Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa Tactical Look episode on our nice new shiny signings that we're going to be implementing into the Unai Emery system. Me and Earl are going to have a look at each player and where they fit in and what it could mean for Villa going forward during this season. Earl, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I've got the three Lions back on. I'm glad it's the international break for once. I usually don't like this international break, but I think we need it, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We need it to kind of have a bit of a breather, relax, get everything ready now and hit this season as hard as possible. Now the uncertainties are all out of the way. But deadline day threw up two very important signings for Aston Villa. We'll kick it off with Harvey Elliott first. I mean, I've spoke about him a lot. So what are your thoughts on Elliott joining Villa?
Yeah, I was really pleased with this one, to be fair. I think a lot of clubs were after him, and I think that tells you a lot. And I think it was a really positive signing. You know, young player, not too young, maybe a good age where he's still got a lot of potential, but ready to contribute right away. So I thought it was really positive and a good fit for the team, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good when fans from the opposing team are sad to see him go, which is normally a good trait. We've had a lot go this window where we're glad to see the back of him. Although Dendonker's been running in behind Real Madrid and scoring goals, so I don't know what's happening to Dendonker, but yeah. So he's a really top player. England under 21 international, has been playing fantastically well for them. Liverpool, his numbers are very, very good as well. So what do you think he'll bring to this Villa team that probably we don't currently have right now?
Well, the big thing is creativity. I think anyone who's watched the past three games that we've had to endure and sit through, we've lacked creativity, haven't we? We've not scored a goal. We've not been able to create much in the way of chances. So I think he can bring that creative spark. I think we've got a lot of dribblers in the side. We've got Rodgers, Gesson, Marlon, these types of players who are like to dribble the ball a lot. We've kind of lacked that creative passing in the team, which is one of the reasons why I think Emery has tried to push Tielemans forward, is to have that creativity and creative passing in the final third. But obviously, in doing that, we lost Tielemans passing from deeper areas. We've seen Buendia come on and look good and play well, and I think it's just because he has that bit of a different profile. He's willing to play those through balls and those types of passes. And we've seen it with Asensio last season as well. He came in and slotted in, and what he brought us. So yeah, I think Elliott can bring us a lot of those qualities and types of vibes that Asensio brought, but maybe in a bit of a younger player with more longevity.
Yeah, I've been quite critical of Villa so far this season tactically. It's felt a little bit unbalanced, a lack of synergy with across the whole team, within build-up, within certain players just looking quite disconnected. So Watkins looking disconnected, making runs, no one finding it. Rodgers being in very tight areas, head up, no one around him. And I actually feel like these signings now will bring more of a cohesion and bring Unai's vision of this current Villa team together. I think when you're looking at Elliott being able to get on the ball and play those progressive passes that can find those runners, it means that everything starts just linking up together and having that better fit. And I think maybe Emery has had his ideas of what he wants Villa to be, this system, but not necessarily had specific ingredients to finish his little recipe. And hopefully now it all does come together. So, Earl, talking about Elliott, then what we're going to do is each player we talk about, we're going to have a look at where they fit in and try and map out what this Villa team can look like maybe for Everton or Everton and beyond. So Elliott's under 21s and at Liverpool, everything that we've seen from Elliott is starting on that right-hand side. Do you feel like it's as black and white as that? Or do you think Emery has a different option for where Elliott can fit into this Villa team?
Yeah, I think he can play a couple of positions. I think we will see him off the right at times, but I think he will come in as the central number 10 personally. And I think that will move Rodgers out to the left. We have Rodgers who likes to come into kind of those left half spaces, the channel on the left, so he's not fully wide, but he's not fully central. And I think Elliott can operate in similar areas, but on the right hand side of the pitch, he can play on the right. But I think with Sancho coming in, who I think we both think is going to play, I think he might be a bit more central, but can
just
play on the right as well.
I mean, just touching on Rodgers then, I'm not so sure I'm fully 100% on him always having to start down the middle. I see a lot of things of Rodgers down the middle a lot. I actually kind of feel like what you're saying, Rodgers on that left with a bit more space. I think Rodgers is very good in those tight spaces, and he's very good at when he receives the ball in here and he's bypassed the midfield and he's tearing down on a goal. But sometimes I actually feel like when Rodgers has got the ball in that number 10 at times and he gets shut out and there's nowhere for him to go, being on that left does give him a little bit more room and purpose to sort of like attack more open spaces. So are you on my sort of thinking, or do you think he's 100% better down the middle?
I think it's a game by game. Depends who you're playing. I think so. If you're coming up against against Brentford, I wanted him down the middle because against the midfield too of Henderson and I forget who else it was. Rodgers has got the running power there in the midfield to beat those kind of players. In other games where they've got more packed out midfield, maybe prefer him off the left. I think it comes down to different phases of play as well. He excels, picking up the ball in those areas and driving forward, like we're saying. But maybe in the final third against a set defense, he's maybe better slightly to the left. So I think he's one of those players where, when we have Maatsen overlapping, that allows him that freedom, allows Rodgers that freedom to roam as well. So he can go in those left areas, he can go in those central areas if we do have someone on the left who's holding that width as well.
Yeah, right. Another player, Sancho, joins Aston Villa. Talk to me about Sancho. What's Sancho bringing to Aston Villa?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If you would have told me that in 2020 that Sancho would play for Villa, I wouldn't believe you. But here we are. You could probably say the same for Rashford as well. Maybe Tielemans in the past, but it's an interesting one. I didn't see it coming at all. But yeah, we were in dire need of a winger, weren't we? Dire need. He's a player. Sorry, you go.
We are crying out for that, and I think, especially on the left, I think I like the vibe of a left-sided winger. We saw it with Rashford at times, and I think where we're probably going to end up talking about this on this show especially as well is that we're going to not really talk about two players, and we're not going to talk about Guesson, and we're not really going to talk about Marlon. But I think what you've said about Rodgers there, game dependent. We are a team that can be game dependent, so it can be Rodgers off the left. It can be Sancho off the left. It could be Marlon down the middle. It could be Guesson down the middle. It could be Guesson on the right. So I think we've got all these different options now, which make Villa more unpredictable. So That's what I'd finally say on that. But go on, carry on.
Yeah, well, with Sancho as well, you're saying he can play on the left, he can play on the right. You know, we say that about a lot of players, but you know, genuinely can play on either wing, I think. And just having that, you know, mentioned it with Elliott, but that added creativity in the team, we're just crying out for it at the minute. Bit of creativity, bit of something different, someone who can, you know, take a player on 1v1, you know, dribble into the box, pass into the box. You know, probably similar to Bailey in some ways, or what you want Bailey to be. But I think the big difference with Sancho, I think he's got a lot higher ceiling, you know, a lot higher potential of where he can get to. But also he doesn't lose the ball as much as Leon Bailey and a lot of other wingers, to be honest. You know, if you look at Sancho, his passing accuracy is high, his take on percentage is high. He doesn't get dispossessed, you know, too often compared to other wingers. So I think that's something that Emery is really big on. And, you know, we've talked about it before that, you know, maybe Emery doesn't actually like wingers that much. And I think it's because you know, these types of players are more likely to give the ball away. And with Sancho, that's it. Doesn't give the ball away too often. So I think Emery will be quite big on that.
Yeah, and just something that I like the look of with Sancho is that red blob of cluster of red going into that 18-yard box, kind of getting to that byline and attacking that zone. I think we don't have anybody that does this. So the fact that we've now got this is very, very important for Aston Villa. And I just kind of want to touch on something that tactically, with Sancho especially, on that left-hand side, is that when he hugs that touchline and when he can drive into here, we started to see this against Crystal Palace. Ian Maatsen operating inside this area, and it kind of evaporated as the game went on. Early on, I really wanted to take a photo of it because he was playing in that inside area, and I think that enables Sancho to stay out wide, and Maatsen can come and help out as well, and he can be in that zone. And if we just have a little look at Maatsen's heat map against Crystal Palace, you'll be able to see exactly what I was talking about. So if we touch on Maatsen here now, and you'll be able to see that on his heat map, look at the red zone that he operates in, but look at the yellow around sort of like number 27 and number 11. So this is where Maatsen's kind of coming inside. And if you imagine Sancho on the outside, that kind of unlocks Maatsen, and something that me and Earl have been talking about a lot with Maatsen that we really want to see. So do you think we could start to unlock Maatsen a bit more through Sancho playing on the left?
Yeah, it adds that bit of unpredictability. I think with both of them, because they could both, you know, stay wide. They can both come inside, interchange in those positions, and they've obviously got the chemistry hopefully there as well from the Dortmund days, where, you know, we did see Maatsen in those kind of areas a lot more often when he was playing for Dortmund. And obviously, you know, Sancho and Marlon as well, both being in that Dortmund team. So hopefully there's a bit of connection, bit of unpredictability in there as well.
And finally, then, let's talk about Lindelof. I imagine he's one that will be forgotten and no one will mention him much. But what do you make of Lindelof joining Villa?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you know, a quiet signing that probably won't get too much attention, won't get too many headlines. But I mean, it's, you know, I don't know the finances. It's obviously a free. I'm assuming it's a cheap deal. Hopefully the wages aren't too high and that sort of thing. You know, we've got Konsa, who we know is going to play when he's fit. Konsa is going to play in that right centre back role. So, you know, bring Lindelof in. He's a ball playing centre back who will play when we need him. I think he's you know, also a player. We've got Bogard as well. I don't think Lindelof is, you know, he's going to block Bogard's development or anything like that. So, you know, we've got Bogard who's going to play minutes. Konsa's going to play the majority of minutes, and then an experienced pro in Lindelof, who, like I say, is hopefully a cheap deal and will just play when we need him to.
Yeah. I think it's important to talk about the bench as well. I mean, for example, if Sancho starts, Elliott starts, we've got Guesson, Marlon, McGinn, Jimo Aloba and Buendia as creative options with Guesson, Marlon, Jimo, Buendia, McGinn. You'd have Anana on that bench. You'd have Digne on that bench. You'd have Mings on that bench as well. So it's looking pretty stacked out with a lot more quality now. So just touching on sort of like where we can see we're at then. So I always find it funny that when you start a season, your team looks a certain way, and come the end of it, it can look totally different. So the other good thing to notice as well is that he's an English front four, which when did we last have an English front four? 4 players, all English, which is really impressive as well then. So we kind of touch on Guesson and Marlon at the same time then. So would you say we will see this on a regular, or do you think it will alternate quite a lot?
I think it will alternate quite a lot. The way I see it, we've got kind of 2 profiles of players, I guess. You've got kind of your pacey players who take a lot of shots, get a lot of shots off, and then you've got your more creative forwards who looking to create for others. So we're probably in a phase where you need to play 2 of each of those categories of players. So I'd say you've got like Watkins, Marlon as your pacey shooters, let's say, and you can add Guesson to that and Rodgers as well. They probably fit into both categories depending on how you use them, how they're utilized in the game. And then you've got your creative passers, your more creative players, maybe a bit slower, Sancho, Elliott, Buendia, etc. So McGinn. So yeah, I think it'd be a combination. I would say of 2 of each of those different categories, if that makes sense. And we've got the options. We've got a lot of games, so I think there'll be a lot of mix and match.
Yeah, definitely. I've done this graphic now that's going to show, and hopefully I've not forgot anyone, right? So Earl, let me know if I have forgot anyone. So this now shows the whole Villa squad for the season. And yeah, I've put Marlon off Watkins, but I could put Marlon over here, which would mean that the striker situation looks light. But I think with that strike, you've got Guesson, who is used to be a striker that can go anywhere. So Guesson could play up top, and it wouldn't be like, I remember when we were going down, and we looked like we were going down, and I think we played like Bailey up top for a game, and it just like we're not in that situation. So we'll go with Marlon there. Does any of this? Is there a position here that worries you, or do you feel okay?
Right back. Yeah, and I think it's something that I've been saying for a while. To be honest, I don't remember not saying it. Yeah, right back. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I'm not going to say I don't agree with that, because I do agree with that. Where do you feel like I mean, he's injured, Garcia, so he that's why he's not involved at the minute. But do you see a way in which Garcia plays longer minutes for Villa, or is it a case of it's Matty Cash, or unless we go with, say, a Konsa at right back, Lindelof right-sided centre half, or something like that? Do you think it's always predominantly going to be Cash this season?
I think so. Yeah, I think Bogard is more likely than Garcia. I mean, I have nothing against Garcia personally, but Emery doesn't seem to play him. I know he's injured at the minute, but yeah, I think it's Cash. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything else. I think
because I do, when I was thinking about the signings that we sort of have made, and we're looking at the window as a whole, and we're looking at the personnel that could potentially play on that right-hand side. So, for example, if we looked like this situation, so Elliott is obviously left-footed, so he will come inside at times. He will want to do that, and you will want him in and around there if he played on the right. So he could invert. Then depends of what the build-up shape could look like for Aston Villa. So Sancho, he comes inside. You've got an out-and-out back three if we continue with that sort of shape. But you're then still asking something of Cash on that outside, on that right. Even if Kamara comes in and screens, you're still asking something of Cash out there as well. So I'm with you that I think Villa's window in the end was I think it was the best it could have been. And I think because of all of the situations with finances, we weren't able to go out and sign an out-and-out right back. But I do think now that this has got to be a priority going into at least the summer now to address that situation and try and find somebody, because I don't mind Cash. I like Cash. I think he tries hard, he works hard, but it's quality. And I think for Villa, we're going to need him to lift that level slightly, because we've already seen that he's giving the ball away in bad areas and it's costing Villa. So he's just got to improve a bit. I do
wonder if we'll see Sancho on the right. I do wonder if we'll see Sancho on the right, just because I think it will help Cash out a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there are points where you see Cash out there and he's got nothing in front of him. So yeah, I do say I say it quite often that he lacks quality at times, but we're not helping him out, are we? He's got nothing there. Last games we've seen, McGinn, he's not a winger, so he's coming inside. Marlon as well. I've always said personally that I don't think he's a winger. We saw it in the last game; he was coming outside. So Cash is a lot of the time he's just stood out there, and there's just a big space in front of him.
Well, it's like that image that I put on the debrief, and I sent it to you when there was nothing on the right, and you are right with this, because when we had Bailey and Bailey was in that season getting Champions League football, and we had Diaby, Bailey hugged that touchline and stayed out wide. You are not relying on Cash to underlap or overlap. There might be times when it's like an opportunistic moment when Cash realises, I got to go, and I go, and he puts it in, and it's a worldy cross. But I think what we've said about Cash is that if you're relying on him to offer width and offer an outlet, it's not going to be there. So I think already Sancho out there on that right helps solve our right back problem to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen it? Cash dribbling forward. If you look at his progressive carry numbers, they're actually quite high. He'll dribble the ball forward, but then turn back and pass it backwards. Is that because he doesn't have anyone in front of him to pass to? Probably a lot of the time the answer to that is yes. So I think Sancho could be a good signing and really help out Matty Cash, hopefully.
Do you feel like Emery's content now with setting us up for the season? Do you feel like he's happy with what he's got going into it?
Yeah, I'd hope so. I don't think a manager will ever be happy, with especially how late the deals got done. I know he's spoken about before. He's wished the transfer window would end before the season starts, and I completely get that after seeing what's happened this window. But yeah, I think you got to be happy. I think we're in a lot of a better place than what we were. So I'm personally happy. I hope Emery is as well.
Yeah, I'm happy. I think Elliott is. I think Elliott's the one that I'm really excited to see how he develops, because he's basically a permanent signing. So I think I always get more excited with those. And then Sancho, with the way in which Rashford developed, and on some of our TikToks, we've got sort of like Man United fans chiming in, and I'm just like, well, Rashford's now at Barcelona, like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's got a great, and whether Sancho goes anywhere else after this, if he can go to Barcelona after this, then that tells me that he's had a top season for Aston Villa then. So I think that's pretty much everything. Having a look through at how our new players fit into the system, where we think they're going to play, all the different options as well. So cheers for coming on, Earl, up the Villa.